Welcome to Beyond the Sale, the podcast for brands who want to turn every customer into their best customer. I'm Emily Lagasse, VP of Marketing at BluStream, and today we're diving deep into one of the most challenging post-purchase customer experience verticals out there, wellness and CBD. Our guest today has a unique perspective that you won't find anywhere else. He's built customer experiences from both sides of the equation, as a serial entrepreneur founding multiple wellness and CBD companies, and now as the VP of Business Development at BluStream, where he helps other wellness brands solve their biggest post-purchase challenges. In the wellness space, customer success isn't just about satisfaction scores. It's about helping people through deeply personal health journeys, often with products that take weeks or months to show results. Today, we're going to explore how to keep customers engaged during that crucial waiting period, how to handle the complex education needs around dosing and usage, and why traditional customer success playbooks don't work for wellness brands. Whether you're building a CBD startup, scaling a wellness subscription, or just trying to figure out how to better support customers who are dealing with anxiety, pain, or sleep issues, this conversation is going to give you tactical insights you can implement immediately. Welcome, everyone. Today on Beyond the Sale, I'm joined by Michael Sherr, VP of Business Development at BluStream and serial wellness entrepreneur. Michael founded Aria Brands, Arbor Hemp, and Higher Celebrations before joining BluStream to help other wellness brands. In 2016, he also founded the America-Israel Cannabis Association to help educate the U.S. hemp and cannabis consumer base on the swaths of research being conducted in Israel, a powerful tie to the wellness and education thread that runs through his story. I have known Michael for over a decade now, as we met in graduate school at Babson while earning our MBAs, and I'm so pleased to be having this conversation with you today, Michael. It should be a lot of fun.
Too. Very excited.
So to help us set the stage for our talk today, in one sentence, could you share, in your opinion, what's the biggest post-purchase challenge that's unique to wellness and CBD brands that other industries don't face?
So one sentence is hard. However, first off, thank you for having me on this. I'm excited to be part of the team, and also, you have a decade of history and have worn many hats in many industries, so it's kind of fun to see you in this role as well. So I think the challenge for me was the lack of education around the industry initially as a kind of an entry point. And then over the last handful of years, because there's no standardization, there's no regulation around testing, et cetera, you have a lot of misinformation. So when it comes to getting people to stay with you, it's become originally it was a price issue, then it was a whole claims issue. Like, these people are saying this can help with sleep or losing weight or help you be a better dancer, and you're like, there was no real kind of regulatory body dictating what you could or couldn't say, despite people kind of having regulations, paying for a lot of legal to say what you could or couldn't say, but it was very few folks actually getting penalized for that at first, and so people were just changing. So I think the biggest thing was kind of brand loyalty, if that were to be the one takeaway in a smaller soundbite.
Yeah, it sounds like brand loyalty built specifically around education and informing your customers honestly and with a lot of integrity about what your products do, and maybe some insight into their quality and efficacy.
Yeah, and with CBD and non-psychoactive cannabinoids, meaning THC can get you high, so to speak, CBD doesn't and shouldn't. It's people were expecting it to work overnight, and that was a big challenge too. Is that some of these have issue 2, 3, 4 week on ramps to have a better night's sleep. Depending on what it is, sometimes you need to. These compounds interact with what's called the endocannabinoid system, which is a system in our body linked to our immune system, and it's not just a one-time fix like an Ambien, for example. It takes time to interact and activate these receptors, so you kind of over a certain amount of time get to see the benefits of the product. And that's a big thing too if people are looking for an overnight fix, like taking an Ambien or having a THC gummy. You're not going to have that necessarily the same effect with CBD.
Yeah, that's actually a great point to get to our next section, which is talking a lot about the problem. So let's dig into what's really happening in the wellness and CBD space. We hear brands talking a lot about customer journeys and retention strategies,
Yeah.
and I want to get real about what's actually happening after someone clicks buy now on a wellness product. So, Michael, based on what you've seen, what actually happens to most customers after they're buying a CBD or wellness product for the first time? Can you just talk us through that journey for the average consumer?
And we candidly never got large enough where we had thousands of subscriptions, but or thousands of monthly clients or customers. Uh, I'd say on average, we'd have people buying, and we offered a variety of products from tinctures to soft gel pills to even a roll-on topical that was incredible and can't even make it anymore, unfortunately. But the experience really was hurry up and wait. We'd email clients, our customers every month with a coupon, like, oh, we're having a July 4th special or something of that sort. And other than that, we didn't have transparency into them. Got some reviews, of course, but it wasn't a steady flow of kind of connection with our customers. And that was, I think, some of the downfall we had in our business model.
What I'm hearing from you sounds similar to what we see a lot of our clients coming to BluStream with, which is their main retention strategy is offering promotions.
Mm.
That's like the general way to get people to come back is offering a coupon, sharing news about a new product. But what I'm hearing you saying is that, having that real connection and ability to build transparency and brand loyalty is incredibly important in this industry.
Right.
So on the business side of the equation, as someone who's founded multiple wellness companies, what does that look like on the business side? How did you know if customers were actually using your product successfully? I know you just mentioned reviews, so I'm sure maybe some folks decide to go to, a place to leave reviews, and you can maybe get a little bit of a sampling there, but what else did that look like for you?
It's funny, the side of the box. Start with a half a dropper or our FAQs. Those were kind of all we had, and every customer is different. Because the thing about your endocannabinoid system is that everyone has a different amount. So it's not. I mean, yes, you could say it's somewhere like having a beer. You could have 2 beers and not feel it. Someone could have 5 beers and not feel it. But this, one dropper may make someone tired. It may not affect another person. So it's the understanding of titration and education there. There was I don't know. I guess there's a lot of we didn't really have that interaction, and the sad part was when I mostly shut the hemp company down, Arbor Hemp. When I sent emails out to our subscription, we had numerous people come back and be like, wait, this is helping with my condition. This is helping. How am I going to find? What do you recommend? And they didn't leave reviews, and I didn't know it was helping them. That was one of the hardest, heartbreaking moments of when you have many customers telling you how much your products have helped with their pain, with their sleep, with their psoriasis, whatever it may be, and I didn't know that. If I knew that, then you can end up marketing to more folks with those issues. You could spend money on SEO ranking for certain things. Hypothetically, let's make up psoriasis as a thing. I'm not saying I can make claims on this, but let's say I found out through earlier engagement that helped. I could have been like, you know what, I'm going to try to rank for psoriasis. And that's a lot easier than ranking for sleep, or in CBD. So, I just think that the lack of knowledge there was a kind of a vacuum that we had no insight into.
Yeah. And you're helping illustrate this challenge, I think, that a lot of brands have with not knowing if their customers are successful or not, but also how much they're enjoying the products or what they're using them for.
Sure.
And so as an entrepreneur, actually getting that feedback from your customers, I'm sure not only felt great because you're creating these products yourself, but also with your product manager hat on, you're thinking about, well, what other product lines could I have come up with? And as a marketer, you're thinking, how could this have improved my acquisition strategy? So that zero-party data just becomes critical. And as we've talked about, it's like, you're helping your customer use your products better. And at the same time, you're gathering information that can similarly help you with the business side and help more customers be best customers.
Yeah.
Excellent. And we touched on this a little bit, just in terms of how this worked at your business, but I'm curious what you see in the market in terms of, CBD brands needing to share education about dosing, timing, consistency. You mentioned that it's a personalized journey for everyone, and that their body is interacting with these products differently from another person. So how do you currently see brands addressing this for their customers? And I'm also thinking this applies for other wellness products, not just CBD. It could be supplements or other skincare products that we've seen.
So how is it?
Yeah, how are you seeing other brands address this critical moment when they have to educate their customers on dosing, timing, consistency?
It's this is a weird challenge. Like we spent a fortune on legal trying to say what we could or couldn't say, and you couldn't
Hmm.
make any claims. I had to have, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was Amazon. I can't remember what it was. Something that we had to take off like every single thing that had any sort of claim or any sort of thing. Like our website was like, oh, you're making claims, this is illegal. And I'm like, no, we're saying in the clinical study, this was the data from this, because we
Hmm.
actually leveraged some NIH funded data to have information on sleep and weight loss. But we couldn't make those claims. I spent so much time to what can we say, and then unlike other industries that have clinical research that are not federally gray or illegal, uh, you don't have to be under the microscope as much as we were in the hemp space. So education is a challenge. I mean, like our social media, we would do a couple like you wine to relax more, like because relax is not a condition. So you couldn't have
Hmm.
things lean towards conditions, unlike ibuprofen. That's like, oh, it's FDA approved, it's been to clinical studies, and right now there aren't, there's not a ton of financial resources putting any sort of cannabinoids through deep clinical research, because it's so ubiquitous and so cheap right now that even if someone did that, you could get a similar product, or we think was one, at a hemp store, CBD store, grocery store, and that's where the education is between the best and the marginal players. We don't know. Some people are going to gas stations and buying CBD there, and having it not be what you get on our website, for example. Like it just be a completely different product or different mixes, or not even testing out because there's no regulation around it. So you have this education challenge, because not all CBD is equal. At least with other products, whether it's beer or whatever, even dispensaries that sell THC, you have to have it regulated. You have to have it tested. If you're going to a liquor store and you're buying a bottle of wine and it says 13% alcohol on there, it has to have 30%, or give or take. It can't be 150 whatever proof or something. It has to be that. And
Right.
same thing with, you're not going to go get um, Advil and have it have Viagra in it. So those are like those are some of the challenges we felt education, because you weren't allowed to say certain things, and there was inconsistency across the entire industry.
Yeah. And it sounds like, based on what you're saying too, that the methods to communicate and educate, you mentioned websites, which means your customers have to come find you to look into the information that they want to access. And you also mentioned social media, which again is often, consumer led in terms of coming to your page, interacting with the content that you have. So it sounds like there's not only a challenge in making the claims and stating the information that you need or want to, but also that access to that information sounds a bit challenging, I would imagine, as a business owner.
Yeah, and if you have a lot of customers, you can throw some SMS out there. If you only have emails, you have email marketing. So it was a challenge. I mean, we had some conversions on certain methodologies that worked, but it wasn't like I had a home run. This is the best way to market to our customers or to get new customers.
Hmm. Yeah. So in wellness, you've mentioned in CBD that customers are often dealing with very personal issues and specific issues like anxiety,
Sure.
pain, sleep problems. How do you see brands gather real feedback about their experience beyond using traditional surveys?
I mean, you kind of don't, unless you're going out. At trade shows, you're dealing mostly with B2B type stuff, sometimes B2C, but this is obviously why I'm here at BluStream, is that like I see the value of being able to collect that zero party data, being able to engage with your customers in a way that collects that data, so you can then focus your other marketing efforts to other tactics. It's a tool that would have been very useful years ago, in most of my companies, and I see it solving a need that allows you to actually not replace surveys, but get ahead of surveys. So you don't have to rely on that because it's so easy. I mean, I can't remember the stats. You probably know this better than I do. Is how many people and how quickly folks respond to like a text or a text experience. And I'm sure you'll explain more on the chat stream of how that works and not having to rely on SMS. But that's just as much easier than open an email or a survey or something of that sort of getting folks to respond in real time with a B, C, a yes, no, a hashtag help, or whatever it may be. Is a much easier lift for the end consumer.
Yeah, and it also provides just a more personalized experience, which I'm understanding in especially CBD is critical, CBD wellness, to be able to personalize information for the end consumer to help them use the products in the way that's best for them.
Right.
Yeah. So we've talked about the challenges and the reality of what's happening in wellness and CBD customer experience. But I don't want to leave everybody feeling discouraged because there are brands that are getting this right. So let's shift a little bit to what's working. You've been in the trenches building customer relationships across multiple companies, and now you're seeing what works across dozens of wellness brands at BluStream. So let's break this down a little bit and hopefully give our listeners some actionable takeaways that they can apply within their own businesses. So we know that 70% of customers won't make a second purchase. So what retention strategies do you see wellness brands using to make sure customers are coming back? In wellness and CBD, it seems like a no-brainer that if a product is helping you with your health, that you would make a second, third, fourth, fifth purchase. But we know that that's just not happening from the statistics we see. So are you seeing any successful brands out there, and what are they doing?
It's interesting, and I mean, I was heads down for a while with my brand, so I haven't looked at some of the Charlotte's Webs of the world or SunMeds and some of these bigger companies that I've known and worked with in the past. There's a lot of them were doing it right. I don't know if how their sales are. A lot of them are privately held, so I'm not sure what's been working for them. But traditionally, you throw a lot of money at marketing, and there's been ways where you can market through some of the Facebook stuff. I mean, that's what some of these people who are spending millions of dollars a month or $100,000 a month were getting ROI and traction on this in the CBD wellness space. But you have to spend a lot of money to make some money, and so that seemed inefficient and kind of outdated. But that's what I saw work. There's a company I was consulting in Denver that was spending close to $100,000 a month just on SEO and that kind of subscription marketing, and they were doing okay. I mean, they were getting their money back every month, but that doesn't include COGS. So they're like, I'm like, okay, great, you're making what you've put in there. Don't you need like 2x in that? But still, I mean, to have that kind of war chest to be able to throw in $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a month in marketing for these small businesses. Those are few and far between, so that's what's kind of separating out the larger ones. But having said that, whether you're small, medium, or large, having a tactic that allows you to engage in real time with a lower lift, a lower cost, is something that is missing. So you ask, like, what are they using for retention? I don't know, because I don't know, under the hood what they are using, what kind of SMS, like the Spring Bigs of the world, which is more cannabis-based, or if it's just, really hounding email marketing or social and really driving just, or competing on price and just offering coupon, which at some points, that's going to not work if it's a race to the bottom, which over the last handful of years, the inputs of the hemp, CBD, and other cannabinoids have been very commoditized, where it's, a tenth to a 20th of what the costs were 3 or 4 years ago. So I know this is obviously teeing up the value add of BluStream, which to me is a no-brainer because of that void that has been just that unknown for so long with the kind of user experience. That like the unboxing, the doorstep to delight, understanding how is your customer using your product right now. And as for sleep, are they taking it too late? Are they waking up groggy? Well, how do you tell them, hey, by the way, try it before dinner? How do you engage with them in real time so they don't leave a bad review? So they want to buy it again, and they create that customer loyalty. But this is working for whatever they need it for: sleep, anxiety, relaxation. Uh, that's just the no-brainer and the aha moment that I had of why this makes sense and why this tool is so imperative to drive that retention.
Yeah.
Hence why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you highlighted so many great points about what we see with clients in the wellness and CBD space when they come to BluStream. You mentioned that they're throwing money at marketing. They're using inefficient and outdated ways of acquiring and retaining customers, and using coupons and emails. And I see a lot of brands doing this across verticals, right? You just kind of keep throwing out coupons, throwing out social media posts, keep trying to get people to stay top of mind. And what BluStream does is we put your brand in the consumer's pocket on their phone, and you engage with them in real time based on their needs and their questions and who they are as a product user. And that's what really drives loyalty and retention. And we see that time and time again. So we're so happy to be in this space because we see such a critical need to be helping folks with their health and their wellness. And so it's really exciting that you're on board helping us connect with all these great companies so we can help consumers everywhere use their products better.
Awesome.
Great. So let's move on here. I'm curious if you could tell us what's the difference between the best customers and the customers who may only purchase once. Do you see any sort of patterns that maybe can help shed some light into strategies that brands could use?
So, great question. And obviously with subscription, if they're not falling off, then they're still a good customer. But you don't know if they're using it. If they have 5 boxes and they're using it once a week, if they're giving it to friends. That lack of communication, again, when it comes to only to when reviews occurs, is when you get that. I'd say, like a good customer, we had some random customers that we noticed were ordering sporadically and then ordering like 10, 20 boxes, bottles. And you're like, what are they doing? And I kind of learned through a friend reaching out that their father and grandfather were loving the products. But they were ordering for them. So that level of I would have known that if I didn't know how to reach out to them through a colleague who knew this person. It would make no sense. So would I say they're a good customer? Probably not, because I don't, it just doesn't make sense. If they had an education around how to get on the subscription, how to get their friends on, understanding, your grandfather may need to take less than you, or more than you, or whatever it may be. So that customer I look at as someone who could have been a great customer, but we didn't allow them to become a great customer because I didn't know how to interact with them. And then on the subscription side, understanding use cases, why they're staying on, how often they're using it, when they're ready for another order. I think if your people are on subscription, I would have loved to have known what I learned after the fact. And those were the great customers, the ones that were using it daily, the ones that were actually having benefit versus I used it when I was tired, didn't really feel it, but I'll keep trying it. Because we had customers using our products for things like perimenopause, and even menopause, like hot flashes, sorry. And I'm like, wait, really? Is this enough data that I could go ahead and reach out and give 50 women a 2-month sample or whatever and get some data? But I didn't have that collected until after the fact.
Right. And
again, you're not going to make claims because A, there's no clinical research on it. B, you just can't make claims on that stuff. And as a male owning a company, it's hard to be like, we fixed this. But, there was a lot of information we learned after the fact. And so the customers that are doing that, I think those are the good customers, but getting a hold of them earlier on. And it's the same thing with the ones that could have been good customers. It's just that interaction. You don't know. And as you've said many times in other webinars and when explaining kind of any other product, you know what your customer is doing on your site. With Google Analytics, you know how long they're staying, if they're abandoning a cart, what it takes, what you have to offer them to get back in there and close the sale. You even know with tracking, you can see the minute it lands on their doorstep. you don't know anything else afterwards,
Hmm.
and that's what fascinates me. Um,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
assumed things, we were right and we were wrong, and
That's right.
would have loved to learn more information during that whole process, years ago.
Yeah. What you just described is what we like to call the black hole. After that box hits the doorstep, you don't know. You don't know if your customer is sharing the product with their grandfather or using it for their dog, um, right? You don't know if they're using it for a different purpose than you intended. And so, what that really boils down to is a lack of connection. You didn't have
Right.
a way to reach out to them. I know the person you mentioned that you did reach out to, trying to understand their buying behavior, you had a direct connection to through someone in your network, so you were able to reach out. But otherwise, you're just sitting there looking at your
Yeah.
numbers at a loss. You don't have a way to connect with them.
Yeah, or reaching out via email, like people don't want to be badgered, or get bothered with random questions. Like, we see you ordered 10.
Yeah.
Why is that? Versus so
Yeah. So we've covered what's broken and what's working, and I want to look ahead. I think you're in a really unique position. You've built these customer relationships as a founder, and now you're at BluStream. You're seeing the patterns across the entire wellness industry. So let's talk about where this is all heading and what the future of wellness customer experience could look like. So the wellness industry is evolving really quickly. It sounds like
yeah.
even from the beginning of launching your brands to the end, you saw a lot of change within the industry. Where do you see the biggest untapped opportunity for brands to improve customer retention?
We've kind of touched upon it a little bit, and I am biased because I do work for BluStream now, but I also, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I have to join an AI marketing technology company right now. I just was fascinated that this unmet need, this black hole, was existing, and there was no one really tackling that. So the idea for we've kind of talked about how to improve retention. It's that engagement. I mean, and I don't know another way. I mean, you can have text, you can send personalized emails, you can reach out to folks one on one, and spend a fortune on that kind of outreach. Um, and I think you're talking about like, where it's going and kind of like what the uh, future looks like in that. Like I see the that education through excitement. I think everyone, you have the stats there of what percent of people expect to have a personalized experience, an N of one, where you're actually treated like you are special. I think that's something that we're going to see more of, and the personal concierge, and not just in wellness, but I'd say in wellness particularly because everyone is different, and with AI allowing you to create that unique user experience and that journey along which the customer gets to grow with the product. Because that's what is fascinating about this product is that the customer is going to learn more about themselves, about their understanding, and create a different experience, whether it's a tolerance or really they want to have another product that augments it. Meanwhile, the product is going to change, whether it's a supplement or something of that sort. You're going to learn more about, oh, I want this for sleep. What else can I add to this to have a better sleep? Oh, try lavender tea, or try peppermint, or try a CBN product and combining this because it'll help with sleep. That's like this level of that might work for you and not for someone else. Like this is comical. My sister-in-law, her mother had surgery a month ago, and she was like, "I'm trying cannabis now and hemp and CBD. I can't sleep. My pain is this," and I'm on the phone with her an hour. Not everyone's going to have a personalized me to get on the phone with them, but that education around her experience is so different because not everyone's going to have knee surgery and sleep issues. It may be hip surgery and pain. It may be a child and anxiety. Like, and just being able to, and again, I'm more obviously into the hemp CBD space, but like the idea of fish oil or some level of protein or whatever it may be that you need because everyone's different, everyone's body's different, everyone reacts differently, and until you personalize that, until you create that unique experience, which I do believe people are looking into, and I believe that this is what BluStream really can help with. That's what's going to separate the winners from those who may not have that high level of success.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And it's interesting to see the changes over time. I think the two words that you said in your response that I really, you know, clicked onto were personalized engagement. And before, that used to mean you would personalize someone's name in an email or maybe reference the product they bought, right? And we would say, oh, we personalized that experience for them.
Yeah,
We personalized
right.
that engagement because we know what product they bought. We know how often they shop here. The personalization was really around buyer behavior or maybe website visits or interactions with social media. And by using something like BluStream, where you really can gather the information you need to personalize an experience for someone, is changing the game, especially in CBD and wellness. Because to your point, not everybody has someone as knowledgeable as you that they can reach out to. So having the brand be able to share the exact information that they want with every consumer who's having an individual experience is going to be game changing, as you said, for many brands who are able to
Absolutely.
do this.
Yeah,
Great.
I agree. Clearly.
So, if you could have a conversation with every customer, a real personalized engagement with every customer at the perfect moment throughout their wellness journey, what would that look like? And when would those moments be? When are some critical moments that customers really need help or information?
So I think one of the hardest things for any, whether it's product or service or experience, like whether it's starting to floss your teeth on a regular basis, or if maybe is that initial first step.
Mm-hmm.
The first step was the hardest. It's the first time you're going to the gym. It's the first time you're trying a new thing. I'm going to start reading for pleasure again. It's the first chapter. It's I really believe that unboxing slash education slash you know camaraderie or personal. I mean, we call it a personalized engagement or concierge. I almost think it ought to be a personalized cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something where giving you depending on the product, obviously, but if it's something that's subscription, something that's around the health and wellness side, it's giving you that kind of you're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
This is change is hard. And whether it's starting a new supplement regimen or going to the gym, whatever it may be, it's like I see this as a way to really help people stay on track because it's giving them that sense of I'm not alone. And I've done a bunch of like workout cleanses where it has food and working out, and you're on a Facebook group with thousands of people doing this around the globe, and that camaraderie keeps you on track. Now, not everyone can have that, and so for this, it's even because everyone's also not on the same journey with CBD or with anything of that sort of supplements or health and wellness. Getting it early, getting people excited, and then better than what I said as far as the check-ins, how often someone needs to be touched on text or on the web app on when it makes sense. Um, but staying that early on and checking in, like, oh yeah, how's that first week? You're saying you're doing like being able to showcase that, like, hey, you know what, this is hard. If you
Yeah.
missed the first few, that's fine. Let's get back on it. You're here, and then obviously going through to get that review, as a review is worth so much. Being able to keep them excited, and I don't know. And this is probably something we can put in the journeys is like checking in daily, bi-weekly. Some people maybe we say, do you want to be connected, reminded every day? Like
Mm-hmm.
that could be like, oh wow, I'm now getting my personalized concierge to take this, and that's something that would then lead to that review and brand loyalty. Two huge things. Obviously, the next purchase too, because they'll be excited about using the product, ideally seeing the effects of whatever it may be. Or if it's something like a vitamin C or multivitamin, you'll see it in 5, 10 years when you're healthier.
Yeah. I think you just highlighted such a critical point that is backed up by the data that we have studied as well, which is the reason why 70% of consumers don't make a second purchase is often because they quote unquote fail with a product, right?
Right.
And that could be something as simple as, not having the right information, education, support, motivation. helping somebody even do something simple like set up a treadmill that they buy for their home, right?
Yeah.
Like that could be a barrier. And, you know, enabling brands to help their consumers succeed helps everybody win because then the consumers get their expected and hoped for results and brands retain those precious consumers. So it's a win-win all around in the wellness side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking ahead 2 to 3 years, how do you think customer experience in wellness and CBD will be different from what we see today?
I mean, regulations are changing and always being challenged. I don't know um, if legal aspects will make this more legitimate. I mean, it is kind of accepted, CBD at least. My parents take it daily. You know, I'm not going to get them on THC daily, although they don't need it necessarily. Maybe they do. Who knows? But I hope that it's treated like a regular supplement. I hope that it's incorporated into a daily routine because we have these receptors across our whole body that are activated by CBD cannabinoids. I mean, there's data that will blow your mind on like, oh, it turns out that other compounds interact with our body similar to CBD, like echinacea or um, I don't quote me on this, but even in mother's milk, there's like a dozen or so cannabinoids that are really good for the child. And again, I have to don't quote me on where that is, but I have to look at the numbers of which one they are. But it's the idea that we've created these compounds or analogs to these compounds since our bodies have been made. So the fact that we have a plant that can help, activate that, it should be legitimate. You look at essential amino acids, we have to take them in pill form. We make a certain amount of cannabinoids in our body, but sometimes we need more. And so for me, I wish there's more research on there. I think that I hope the customer experience will be just like any other supplement, and it'll be treated like a legitimate part of your daily routine.
Mhm. It also sounds like in the next 2 to 3 years, you expect there to be even more information and education that consumers will need to have access to and understanding of in order to use their CBD products
Yeah,
as best they can.
I wish there's more clinical research. That's why I originally started the association for research in Israel education, tech transfer, knowledge base, things of that sort. But there's still not a lot of funding for clinical research behind this. Uh, but just creating that legitimacy around uh, why this should be part of your routine. Not everyone's, not all the time, but different cannabinoids have different purposes. Um, so that's kind of I won't be my soapbox on that one, but that's kind of my calling and hope
Yeah,
for the industry is that.
excellent. Well, as we wrap up, Michael, how can wellness brand founders connect with you and learn more about what BluStream does for CPG, CBD, and wellness brands?
I'd be happy to reach out on LinkedIn, Michael Sherr. You can find me, or you can share my email in the show notes, or it's mscherr at BluStream BLU stream.io. Yeah, I'm happy to chat. I think there's uh, many use cases and great ways to try the products with 90-day trials to showcase how we can really drive engagement through that education and through the personalized concierge. And now I kind of want to call it a personalized cheerleader because it kind of makes me feel like, especially with supplementation, because you miss a week or two and you're almost going to start over again on some cases.
Yeah. Well, this conversation has been a lot of fun for a number of reasons. You and I don't often get to sit down and just
Yeah.
chat for a while like this, so this has been a lot of fun. And you really provided so much great information to help us think about the industry as a whole. So I appreciate you sharing all of your great experience. And yeah, and we invite all of our listeners to visit bluestream.io and check out our journey builder for what personalized engagement touchpoints could look like for your customers.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Michael.